This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Business Podcast. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about Alamo Angels, a San Antonio-based investment group supporting early-stage companies through funding, mentorship, and fostering innovation. This is kind of a Shark Tank-ish kind of a thing, so we'll get into it a little bit. Excited to learn more. In studio with us today is Nicholas Lewis, a financial services executive with the Lewis Group. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Always a sharp dresser you are. Mm-hmm. Also in studio with us today is Ben Jones, co-founder of Jockey Ventures, a venture studio that collaborates with startup businesses to build scalable companies. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Krukus Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced overseas administrative assistants for insurance agents and attorneys who need help with their executive-level administrative tasks. If you're curious about the most common tasks that virtual assistants are doing for businesses, head over to our website at krukus.com and grab a list of the top 20 tasks that VAs are doing for businesses just like yours. The link is in the podcast description.
And I'm your co-host, Jenevy Sims with the Evolve Firm, where we help business owners create branding strategies to help evolve and elevate their business.
A quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media where you can catch video versions of the show. You can get to everything easily from our website at satalkradio.com. All right, so Nick, give us a little bit about your background and what led you into angel investing.
Yeah, so I've been with the Lewis Group a long time. My dad started the firm about 40 years ago, so I've been around since I was about 18 months old, but not quite working
Has
there,
he been
right?
teaching you numbers that whole time?
Yeah, for sure. 401ks, all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
But no, started working at the firm probably when I was a sophomore in college, doing administrative stuff like that. Got licensed my senior year of college. Been there about 4 or 5 years now. So that's where I started with them. Got introduced by Sebastian, actually, to Alamo Angels probably 2.5, 3 years ago. Was very interested in the growth of San Antonio mainly. Wasn't even really looking for that angel investment opportunity, but I just saw that they're a huge driver of growth and just different opportunities in San Antonio. I'm really excited about the growth of the city, so thought that was a really great network to be a part of, and ever since then I've gotten really, really involved and really excited about everything they're doing.
Has it been everything you expected or more? Or
More and different, for sure. The community is a lot stronger than you expect it to be. Even it from the exterior, it seems very, very strong, but even stronger than you think it is. And the guys are great. We all do a lot of social things together. We all get together quite a bit, and yeah, we get really involved in the community. So it's pretty exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, and Ben, give me a little bit about your background, how you ended up over there.
Yeah, my background's, I was doing much different at that age. I was probably farming about 2.5 years old. I'd rather been learning about 401ks, but I had a technology company in San Antonio. We had a venture-backed technology company I'd built. I brought it to San Antonio 2021 and ended up selling that company soon after I moved to San Antonio. And that kind of got me into the venture world, I guess, because I saw what investors that invested in my company, kind of what the returns were, what that looked like, what the dynamic of investing in a company. And that led me to how do I get into be an investor instead of one being invested in? Ran across Sebastian again, who's the executive director for it, and he introduced me to Alamo Angels. I became a member, and now I'm very active in that.
How long has the Alamo Angels been around?
This is a brainchild of somebody, I think around 2016. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Nick. I think about 2016, a small group of people that came from Rackspace and some other entrepreneurial people came in town, started the company. It wasn't really what it is now. It was just we need more capital for the startups in San Antonio, focused really on San Antonio startups. Started in 2016, it's evolved. It's went through a few different transitions, and now it's in I believe it's kind of a best transition now, the best place where it's at, where it's got its thesis correct. It's got great network, great investments.
Mm-hmm.
So walk me through what it looks like for somebody who's got an idea or they have something. what triggers like them to come to you guys? What does that even look like? The whole thing's just fog of war. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But help draw a clean picture for somebody that maybe has an idea, business that maybe they want some help with. How do they know they're qualified? How do they take the steps to even learn if they're qualified?
Well, Ben did that, so.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually didn't get accepted into Alamo Angels, so but it was a good learning experience about what to do. And I think mine was because I didn't know at the time. So today it's a pretty simple process. The investment thesis for Alamo Angels is agnostic. I mean, there's 136 members, so it's a large group of people. So some people are from med tech, some are from bio, some are transportation, some come from technology like myself, some come from finance. And so we like to see a lot of stuff. And the way that angel investing works is it's not like a typical business. It is a business that has the ability to be venture-backed or highly scalable at some point, right? So I'm not saying it's the Ubers of the world, but that is kind of the thesis, tackling real-world problems that become scalable businesses. And so if you're an entrepreneur that says, hey, I'm already an outside-the-box thinker, that I want to do something that is venture-backed and create something great, what is that next stage for me? And so usually what we like to look at, we like to look at companies that have a little bit of traction, right? So more than just past the idea phase. So the idea phase is great, but you've got to execute that idea because ideas are cheap, right? So we go in and you've got enough traction to say either it's a product or you've got an LOI from a customer or you have kind of an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. You have something that is more tangible than just an idea. And if you get to that stage, right? So it depends on the traction. So you don't necessarily have to be early stage. You can be a later funded company. I mean, angel investing tends to be earlier stage, but you can go all the way up to seed, Series A. It just depends. And some of this we can get into that. And if you have that, submit it to us online, or if you've got somebody in the network, usually they can put you in front of somebody that can show you how to submit that information. Submit what your company does, how far along traction is, how much funding you have, and who your co-founders are, and of course your product itself. And then what that does, it gets evaluated by a couple different committees and says, we want to take that to the next stage, which is potential investing and showcasing your product to the whole group of investors.
Yep.
Now, you talked about the resources that you have people that can help somebody walk through this process. What type of resources do you have in-house?
So usually it's an online submission. So it's pretty kind of black and white online submission. You go in and it'll ask you all the questions about your company and yourself and everything else there. But we do have people that work for Alamo Angels that can help walk you through that process, right? As in, okay, I have a question on, is my company eligible, right? I mean, sometimes it's like you don't even know if your company is eligible. We have somebody that's available on there. It's on the website. You've got their contact information. You can ask them and see if that is. If you've got information on, follow-up processes, right? If there is like, okay, well, I don't think I had enough information on my product. I'd like to submit more information. We have people that are able to walk you through it. So we want to see companies come through Alamo Angels that are great companies because that gives us a good investment criteria for our investor network. So we want those founders and those people that are building those companies to be able to collaborate with us to be able to showcase that this is the reason why this company should be showcased for the investors.
Okay. Well, you had mentioned that when you applied, you didn't make it. What was the reason for that, and how can people learn from that mistake?
Yeah, I think so in the earlier stages of Alamo Angels, again, I think it was just kind of a less of a established network at that time. I mean, this was 2018, I believe, is when I submitted. 2019. We'd submitted more than once actually, and I think the website wasn't where it needed to be. It was kind of a black hole, I believe, that it fell into, and this was a different organization before it took over the current organization, and they're getting a lot of submissions at that time, right? So they're getting hundreds of submissions a month. They had to kind of sort through all that. There wasn't a team to be able to look through that. And for me, I think when you're raising capital as an entrepreneur, you just kind of it's the spray and pray approach. I think that most of us do, but this Alamo Angel Network is a very, very, very good network. Some of the best entrepreneurs in town, some of the big innovators in town are a part of that. Some of these people it's also a great network. And so spend a lot of time actually putting what your company does, what the product is, what your traction is, because that is the information that we use to be able to sort it to the top and then say, okay, we want to take it to that next stage. And I'll kind of close with that is I don't think it's or just on that question is I don't think it's just one of those angel networks that's like the other ones. I mean, I think we have a really, really involved angel network that wants to see especially local companies succeed. I mean, we look at everything no matter where your location is, but we really want to see local companies succeed.
Now, on top of venture capital, the money, obviously, but what else do you guys bring to the table?
Yeah. I think one of the big things is what he was talking about earlier is the range of different industries that are within our network, right? If you need an attorney, there's a good attorney there. If you need someone in finance, there's someone in finance there. There's a lot more than just tech-focused people, right? Tech executives. There's a really good range of people in different industries which can provide a lot of value, right? And if we don't invest in them or they don't make it to the pitch event, right, because of whatever reason, there's a lot of resources that they can access through our group, right? Someone can help them some way or connect them with someone who can.
Yeah, education is very important because
Definitely.
if you're investing in them and they don't know how to execute it after, that's kind of pointless, right?
Yep.
So I love how you kind of have more of like an incubation center.
Yeah,
right?
and I think the incubation center is even more like geekdom going over there. Charles is a member of our group, and he's one of the head guys over at Geekdom. And so even if they're not ready for angel investment, they can go to those kind of incubation centers and really get put in the right place, I guess.
You mentioned a pitch event. I definitely want to talk about that, but also like how many submissions are you guys seeing a month now on average?
That really varies. I mean, it depends on the time of the month, time of the year, because that it's not always a great time to raise capital. Sometimes holidays, people aren't investing capital because they're spending it on gifts, right? So you see, on average, we're probably going through 40 to 50 companies a month that are being evaluated. I think it's actually more than that, but we're going through a lot. And then at the end of it goes through a couple cycles. So it goes through all these companies that get evaluated either through referrals or online submission. And then it ends up about 8 companies that go through the pre-investment committee. And then at the final stage, which is the pitch stage, 3 companies.
Yep. At that point, it's very Shark Tank-esque, right? There's 3 companies that pitch once a month on a Wednesday down at Velocity or another location that we meet at. And they take 15 minutes each, something like that. Go through some questions, give their pitch, and sometimes they get picked apart a little bit, because there's guys that are very experienced in different industries, which is another benefit of having such a wide network of guys. So
on top of the company qualifying, the character of the person or the people that own the company seems like that would be really, really important, because it's one thing to have a great idea. To your point, I think you made earlier, it's another thing to execute, right? And not only that, but execute even when shit's going really bad, right? That follow through that you guys need. So how do you guys kind of filter those folks out?
Well, I think, one of the coming from an investment side, I've become more of an investor over the last couple of years, instead of just building companies through our venture fund in Latin America. But it's really all about the person, right? I mean, there's a lot of people have great ideas. A lot of people want to build stuff, but it's the people that are hyper focused on the problem, that want to solve the problem because it is a major problem that they usually occurred in their life. I think that's how most companies are built. You find a problem in your life and you want to go address that problem. And then, ego, that's, one of the biggest things that we've seen the most successful entrepreneurs is the ones that, they have to have an ego to be able to build, but an ego that they're the only one that can build this is not what we want, right? We want people that understand, like, these are big problems. I have a chance to fail. And so we want people without an ego. And so if you've got to tend to have an ego saying this is the greatest product in the world, nobody else can do it, you're going to have some trouble because this is a people business more than it is just a capital business, right? And so we really try to look for that as people without an ego, people hyper focused on the problem. And the last part is if you're focused on the capital side of it, which is the exit or the liquidity event, that's usually you're in it for the wrong reasons.
What about systems and processes? Is that a big thing you guys are looking for as well?
You know, this is angel investing. So angel investing is you tend to just have an idea and you tend to have an MVP, and it's kind of tied together with a really loose string, you know, getting this thing together. So you really don't have processes. You don't have people. You may have a team of 10 or less people, and usually it's 6 or less people, I guess, in most cases. In these early stages, because again, this is your earliest stage investing. So I don't think it's processes. Is this a good idea or a big enough problem? Yes, it is. Are these the right people to build that? And I think that's good enough for us. And I think you will have some experts. And again, this is one of the greatest things about the Angel Network is you have people that are great in all industries. I may be great in technology, but I have no idea about biotech. And somebody in biotech may hammer them pretty hard on it because they want to make sure it can actually fit this product side of it. And they can verify that. And we're able to say, okay, this guy verified the product, but we can bet on this person. And
yeah, it's always a risk. Right. It's
is.
always a risk. But it seems like the system that you already have in place, which is them filling out that form and then providing the resources for them, really vets them so that by the time it comes to the pitch, they're ready to go. And, for any business owner that's looking for that next stage in their business, they've already built their business and they're looking for the next step. I think angel investments are the way to go. This is how you build your legacy in San Antonio. And with new startups happening every day, we're seeing how business is done in San Antonio, which is very different from other cities. And so to be able to have to have you guys, Alamo Angels, be able to understand the people, understand the culture, and then willingly invest in it, I think there's so much value in that.
So when you guys get to the pitch, and there's bound to be competition. I mean, I watch Shark Tank, right? It's a lot of fun to watch that show. Is that a favorite of yours, Ben?
oh yeah, I've watched plenty of Shark Tank. It is a lot of fun to watch.
So when I was, just a little rabbit trail here real quick, when I went to Homicide here in San Antonio, I couldn't watch any more detective shows because they're all full of shit, right? So I was like, oh my God, I had to stop watching all of the shows that had to do with anything with homicide investigations. But so that's why that's kind of the motivation behind that question is, well, you've seen Shark Tank. How similar is it? And then also, what about the competitive side? Do angel investors, are they competing for that investment opportunity?
No.
Really?
When you're watching Shark Tank, I've watched the full length things because that 30-second or 1 minute pitch or whatever they do on the show, that's not accurate. They're doing a lot longer pitches than that, right? We're not bidding on them. We're not trying to invest there on the spot, right? That's not really how it works for us. So, if the three companies come in, the first one's whatever that person's pitching, they give you the overarching 5 to 10 minute pitch of what their company's like, right? We ask some questions. They leave the room. We have our internal discussion where we can kind of either say a lot of good things or say a lot of bad things about them. And then there's a couple more conversations after that to go a little bit more deep dive into the companies, right, to really understand. And a lot of times it's not Ben's investing or whoever's investing. It's Ben and the other guys are investing in that company. It's a group of people investing a larger sum of money, right? So it's not just one individual.
Are you guys recording any of this when you guys are doing these things?
Yeah, we do. We record the day of the pitch, and then we record the deep dive. So typically somebody will come in, we'll do that full recording of the three companies that made it through, and then at the end of it, there's a deep dive in case investors want to come on, because I'll go a little deeper on that, is we don't write a check. I think a lot of people want to write a check right at that instant when the pitch is over, but what happens is the pitch is over and we all talk about it and we say, okay, I'm really interested in this. Some guys just say, hey, I'm ready to write a check. What do we do next? They'll go through a deep dive session, and then after that, everybody will make their commitments or not any commitments. And you don't always have to make commitments from investors at the time of the deep dive session, right? I mean, sometimes investors will kind of circle 6 months, a year later. So you're getting more out of it as a company and an investor than just that initial pitch, because you're building a relationship that you kind of curate over months, because companies last 8-10 years. So it's not a one and done kind of thing. And those they tend to raise capital most of the life they're alive.
Yeah. And I see guys in the group invest several different times throughout the company's life. So
outside of
yeah,
angel
and a lot of
Okay.
sometimes quite a bit I see guys in the group have already invested in those companies, and they bring those companies to the pitch events and then kind of present it to the rest of the group.
Okay.
Right.
But back to the recording side of it, what are you guys doing with the recordings? Are they educational, entertainment material? What's happening with those?
They probably could be.
They
Yeah.
absolutely should be.
Yeah, we're really not doing a whole lot with them. I mean, right now it's usually just for the investors that did miss it, because we do have a large network of 136 investors. We do have a network we partner with in Rio Grande Valley, sharing information for them, because it is a larger network than just ours, right? Because you can't make every single meeting. I haven't made a meeting in a couple months because I've been traveling, but I'm still able to watch those videos, get the information from those pitches, and then decide if I want to move forward with the company.
You guys should look at some kind of PR firm or something that can help you guys. I mean, because obviously you don't probably want to release that stuff too close to what's happening, because you're going to invite all kind of competition. But if it's well settled and whatever, 6 months later, whatever, you guys are starting to release stuff. There's a lot of social media content there that you guys could package, and a lot of promotional content you guys could package.
Yeah.
It's a huge opportunity you guys
a
are
great
missing.
idea.
I can hear the gears turning over there with Nick.
See the smoke
Alamo
coming
tank.
out.
Yes, see?
No, I mean,
New show.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about that idea more than once, Sebastian and I, and I think it's a little too crazy for me right now, or for him to take it on right now. But it is that kind of that kind of sprint pitching where people come in and they bid on how big of a check they want to do after the pitch is done, right?
I'll bet you can find people to do that for you, and they won't charge you. They'll just want the ability to be connected to what you guys are doing to promote it. And, they can put their name behind, creating the content and distribution. If there's money needed, of course, you'd have to pay for that. But I bet you could find somebody happy to do
these
it.
are some of the most exciting companies out there that are being built right now. I mean, things that are some very high growth companies in San Antonio, not just San Antonio, but we get a lot of companies from Latin America. We've got some San Francisco. I mean, these are really exciting companies that you just don't run across every day, right? Like not on your normal Sunday at church, you're not running across this company. But here we're getting some really, really fun companies.
Another option might be exploring networks, actually reaching out to establish like a Discovery or HGTV or whatever. You're bound to find somebody who would be interested in dispatching a team out to do a few shows and just see how it resonates.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. Yeah.
It's
a great idea.
Just need a PR
We have a pretty
person.
great social media following and content creation. So, I mean, it wouldn't be a crazy leap to do something like that.
No, they're doing shows about remodeling houses. I mean, how interesting really is
And
that,
we're addicted
right?
to those.
And people love Shark Tank, right? So, I
Yeah,
mean,
they
you could
do.
really put San Antonio on the map with that. And then you're already familiar with podcasting. If you guys can have a podcast associated with that, even doing that a couple times a month to add supplemental material or follow-up or whatever. There's a whole bunch of opportunities there. And then I know there's monetization in there, but you guys would probably know that better than I would.
Yeah.
But
We talked about education. The biggest thing on angel investing is just education. I mean, even going through the cycle that I went through, venture capital, we raised, $22 million, and at the end of it, I was like, I still don't know how to invest, right? and so I think education is not just for the entrepreneurs themselves. Like, if you have a great startup and you have high growth plans, you have the ability to get invested, and also for the investors, it's not as hard as it looks. I mean, you just have to have that kind of exposure to understand it. And that's the great thing about the Alamo Angels network is it makes it less confusing as an investor as well. So you're not coming in just completely blind in this, not knowing how to write your first check or what to do, what the documents are. It's all kind of done for you. Just write the check, I guess, if you will.
So expand a little bit on the networking opportunity that comes with membership. Well, let me back up. So membership What does it take to become a member of Alamo Angels?
Yeah, so accredited investor, that's number one. They kind of vet you a little bit. I think Sebastian has a pretty good vetting process for different members because we don't want people coming in just purely for the reason of, solicitation, right? We want the members to be there for the right reasons. We want them to be there for the growth of San Antonio and the growth of these companies and to add value to the network, right? But, I mean, it's not an extremely serious vetting situation, I don't think.
No.
A lot of
Credit is
people-
credit is pretty easy barrier. If you've got some assets, a house, equity in a house, like I don't know the exact number,
it's
but
250,000 of annual income 2 years in a row, and then or $1 million of assets outside of your primary residence. So that might have changed a little bit, changes a little bit every year, but that's pretty close to what it is. Yeah. So that's number one, and then just coming in for the right reasons. And I think we can sense that pretty quickly if you're not. Right.
Or if they just bring a tremendous amount of value to what it is you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's some like corporate memberships where you can bring in, that's what we have, where you can bring in, different employees, different people in your company. So that's a pretty cool structure as well.
Cool. I like all that. All right. So we talked about membership. How many members do you guys have, did you say?
we have
136.
Okay. And then chapters. So tell me about your chapters.
So this is the main one, which is Alamo Angels in San Antonio. This one's, it's on its version 2, I guess they call it. This has since expanded to the Rio Grande Valley because we are a very LATAM focused, LATAM focused investor network because there's a lot of startups. The first place they land is San Antonio or Miami. So we're kind of building a culture around that because some really great unicorns and startups come out of Latin America, and those founders are looking for a place to go. And so that bridge obviously extends down to the Rio Grande Valley, and there's a membership down there where companies go through that. Sometimes if they graduate from that and it looks good, they'll bring them up to San Antonio, and we will put them through the cycle here to see if they're investment worthy here.
And what are some scaling opportunities for this group? Are you looking to expand more chambers out here, more groups?
Yeah, I think for us, it's expanding our investor network. I think the biggest thing, we've got a population of, numbers are always all over the place, but 2+ million people in San Antonio, a lot of investors here, a lot of investors in Austin. There's a lot of companies looking for capital. And our goal is to really expand the membership network that is in San Antonio, get more people exposure to that, because we really think it builds the ecosystem. You don't hear about it a lot because it's not necessarily the most popular thing going on, but the downtown ecosystem that is being built is this dream that we are going to be a major tech hub or high growth company hub in San Antonio. Or San Antonio is same thing for Port of San Antonio. That's to bring high growth companies here, and as well as high growth startups. And those companies are born out of venture capital, seed investing, and the networks that do that. So we really want local investors to see that.
So let's say you guys start investing. This isn't the best words, but I'm just going to use them anyway. But how predatory is the investing side of it? Is it aggressive, or is it like, hey, it's more gentle? Just kind of give me an idea of when somebody comes in, because I've seen Shark Tank, and sometimes you're like, holy crap, they'll get on Mr. Wonderful, right, because of his predatory offer. Yeah. So, obviously your guys' goal is to make money, but then also to support the local community, support investors, because it's fun to do that, and I understand that side of it. But give me an idea on the offers, where they come in. Are they pretty aggressive?
So I would like to say it's kind of like maybe an uncle investing in your company, right? It's not some predatory payday loan banker that's investing, right?
Not Sharky.
No, it's not Sharky at all. It's somebody you've got a relationship with, if you will. Because when you go to the basics of what this round of investing in, this is your earliest capital that you're going to take, right? This is the people that are going to believe in a little bit more than an idea, a little bit of attraction. But at the same time, these are investors that the investment is a return in their pocket and what's coming into their pocket based on whatever their investment is, right? As opposed to you get later stage which is your venture capital firms, your debt lenders, things like that. I wouldn't say that's predatory, but it is very much you have to meet a very certain criteria for a fund or for a venture capital fund. And so it may seem predatory. I don't think it is, but that has to fit a certain box. As an angel investor, it's kind of all over the place, right? I mean, you have some companies that'll be at a really high valuation because they're in a hot product like AI or something like that, right? And so they'll get a really good term for their investment. Or you'll get somebody that may have some sort of infrastructure play that's on manufacturing, and that's going to get a lower valuation. But usually, I would say these are the least predatory terms, if that's a word we'll use. And again, I don't think it is of the whole entire round, because these are kind of, we want them to succeed at this stage. I mean, everybody wants them to succeed, but we want them to succeed the most because we don't have a lot of capital to deploy, right? Or investors don't. I mean, they don't have expendable income. That's somebody else's money. This is their hard-earned money. And so I think these terms tend to be pretty balanced for both investor and founder.
Well, it's like the fish has to be able to take the bite, so to speak, right? I mean, you got to be able to take a little bit of a bite in order to play the game. We understand that side of it. But you don't want to bite too big to where it actually makes it to where they can't succeed. That's
exactly
to your point.
And a lot of times they come in with they're raising $1 million and they're offering X for that $1 million. It's not really us negotiating so much with them more than it is them saying, who wants in on this? This is the offer. That kind of deal than it is, we want 10% for $2 million. That kind of deal.
Have you had a situation with one of the angel investors where maybe they were too aggressive and maybe asked to leave?
No, we don't usually get that. Again, it's because it's syndicated. What happens is you usually get so let's say Nick and I want to do an investment. Alamo Angels will set up the paperwork for that investment, set the terms with the founder, negotiate with the founder if we are aggressive, right? They'll negotiate, not us, but the executive director, Sebastian, will negotiate directly with the founder and say these are the terms of it. But we usually don't get that. When you're investing in a company, you know what the terms are, you know what they're going to be. You can't really change them unless you're writing a big check, and usually that's done off-site, right? So
who's setting the terms?
The founder usually.
They come in with the terms during their pitch. They normally have that on like a spreadsheet that they give
Yeah, but
us.
don't they shoot high normally?
They do. Yeah.
Okay, so then somebody has to say, hey, heck, all right, let's just bring this down to reality.
Well, so
is that Sebastian or
it depends on? So you typically have an yeah, it is Sebastian usually. I mean, it's usually feedback from Sebastian kind of gets the brunt work of all of the negotiations done through Sebastian. We'll yell at him from our side. He'll yell at the founder, maybe not yell, but he'll negotiate with the founder. He'll come back to us and we'll say, no, go back again. And so we'll play telephone a little bit until we come to the terms. But it is closer to what Nick said, where most terms are set. The reason why is because we are an investment check of usually $50K to, I think the biggest, like $300K, $300 to $500K, I think is the most we've ever done. And so we may be a part of a round. And so usually they may have a lead investor or another investor that set that round. That's not always the case. We may be the first check in, and it leaves us some room for negotiation. But if you go to the pre-screening committee, which is a committee that says, can you get to this final stage? If it is at a crazy number, they usually don't get through. Because
they're trimming some of that along the process, saying, hey, this needs to be a little bit more realistic. And if the person's like, no, then they're not even going to make it through.
Yeah, they probably won't make it through if it's like that.
Yeah.
In San Antonio, what's the average percentage of stake or is minimally required? Is it mostly 10, 20% per the 50,000?
No, sometimes it's not even equity. Sometimes it's just debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's varies a lot.
I'm just curious if San Antonio, the percentage rate is different from another city.
No, I
just
think
because their economy is a little bit different.
Well, because they're normally, these companies that are pitching to us, they're normally pitching to groups like ours all over the world, all over the country.
Yeah.
So whatever terms they set for us are similar to the ones they're setting for everybody else. Because the round is universal, right? Whether they're pitching that round to us, they're pitching that round to an Austin group, they're pitching that round to a wherever group, right? So it kind of has to be the same.
Yeah, except for the Bay Area. I mean, Bay Area tends to be much higher valuations, but I would say the rest of the country is about the same. The valuations tend to be the same. You're aiming for, these numbers aren't, it depends on the company again, but 10 to 20% of that round of funding they're doing is what they're going to give away. Now, again, there's outliers, but usually you're giving away 10 to 20% in your earliest round of funding. But Latin America changes, Bay Area changes, but the U.S. as a whole is very much, this is what it is for how much capital you're raising.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that valuations can be high over than in the Bay Area. Why is that?
I think they can demand higher because usually you have, I don't want to say cream of the crop on founders because that'd be a disservice to other founders, is there's a lot more capital available, right? There's a lot of great founders that come out of the Bay Area. And the ones that do raise the capital tend to be the most successful companies that we hear about today. That's why the valuations tend to be higher. So if you're building an AI, you're going to build in the Bay Area because there's a lot more support for it. And AI demands higher valuations. So if you're in the Bay Area, you're an AI, you're going to demand a higher valuation than an AI company building in San Antonio where we don't really know a whole lot about AI.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
We're
That's
getting
right,
there.
yeah.
But you guys have been doing this for a while. Where do you find the most joy in it when it comes to listening to these pitches and meeting these entrepreneurs who are actually making our city better and building our ecosystem? What part of this makes you happy to continue doing it?
What do you think the percentage is San Antonio companies? I mean, I see a mix for sure. We see a lot of LATAM, even the Rio Grande Valley, Austin, of course. But I'd say 30% are San Antonio companies.
Yeah, probably 30% is right.
Yeah, but even the ones that aren't, they're semi-local, Austin Valley, LATAM, which feeds into San Antonio, like you said. So I mean, that's where I'd get my joy out of it, is definitely the helping San Antonio grow, because I'm really, really excited about the city and all the regions around us that are kind of starting to feed into here. I think that's where I get a lot of my pleasure and joy from this group.
Yeah, and then watching them grow, knowing that
'cause-
you've invested and
Yep.
following their journey.
And there's some big ones too. There's some really big ones coming out of San Antonio growing right now that are starting to be in the news a little bit. We've seen them in the SA Business Journal recently. They're really starting to grow. So it's exciting to see that.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, I think it's great to see founders that you're passing in the hallway at Geekdom raising. I think we had a founder just raise $40 or $50 million in San Antonio. That was a founder that I remember years ago saying, "I'm excited to get where our company was," which was venture capital raising. Like, you'll get there, man. And of course, here we are, $40-50 million later. This founders went from an idea to doing tens of millions of dollars in revenue to a really, really successful company. And he's just your regular guy, like I was a regular guy, like Nick, like all of us here, that those founders are able to do that. And what that does is that builds great jobs, high-paying jobs, entrepreneurial kind of mindset, which is a whole another thing, because these employees of these companies aren't going to a big established company. They're going with the startup where there's a lot of changes, there's a lot of moving parts, but they're getting to see that mindset of entrepreneurial. And what that does, it trickles down to them, and they go out and you know what, I can go start my idea now.
Right.
And that's kind of that's what we want to create. When they get that idea, we want them to come to Alamo Angels to then be a candidate for investing, and it really builds a great ecosystem.
And that shows them that they don't have to go up I-35 and go to Austin for that kind of funding and that kind of environment. Those young entrepreneurs who have those ideas can stay here, and hopefully we're proving that they can stay here, they can grow here, and they can create that job ecosystem here, right? Because those are a lot higher paying jobs than other kind of industries, right? So that's a good environment to build in the city as well. Yep.
What
I
is
love that.
Austin doing on the investment side there? What do they got going on? Do they have a Alamo Angels in Austin kind of a thing?
Yeah, they have similar groups. I think Capital Factory is one of those. I don't know the names of a couple other of them, but obviously they just have a bigger tech ecosystem with Dell and all the big Tesla and all the big facilities that they have up there. Obviously that ecosystem is going to be a little bit more dynamic, but we're trying to compete with that, and I think we're doing a very good job in a different way, right? Because San Antonio is a different city, has a little bit more of a community. I think we are investing in those little companies that are the founders, a little bit more local guys. They grew up here. They're going to stay here. We try to target those kind of people because we want that growth to be for us as much as for them, right?
Yeah, we just have to work on the size of our splash here in San Antonio.
I think it's getting there, though.
Making a bigger
It
splash.
I think it's
Yeah.
definitely getting there.
I hear a lot about Austin and what they're doing, and we hear about Geekdom, what's going on down here.
Yeah.
But it would be good for, I don't know. make a bigger splash. I
the
like
one
go
he's-
big or go home kind of a thing.
The one he's talking about is a big splash, though. I
Yeah,
mean, they have big government contracts. They have all kinds of stuff going
I'm talking
on, so-
about awareness.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, Austin's a different dynamic. I think the rest of the cities, including San Antonio, and this is for entrepreneurs, really is like it is a struggle. I mean, you've got a higher hill to climb in San Antonio because that ecosystem is not as mature as it is. You think about Indeed, you think about Dell, you think about Google. A lot of these companies have been in Austin for a long time, and so it's naturally going to occur there. Now, if you have kids, this is the city you live in, right? Now, if you want to build a company and have kids, it's even better. That's great for us. But I think we're getting to that point where the best part about San Antonio is you talked about geekdom. And I just joined the board of geekdom. Is that you have geekdom and Alamo Angels working together very, very closely. So if you have a question about Alamo Angels, you can go into geekdom. If you have a question about geekdom, you go into Alamo Angels. That network is very, very tight. And I've tried to go to Austin, and although it is more robust, it is not as close of a network. And so these early stages are great for founders because you can get really far along, because the path to Nick may not be as easy if you're going into a place like Austin, because he's inaccessible, right? I mean, he's out helping somebody's 401k on the other side of Austin, right? But here he's in the Alamo Angels, he's in geekdom, he's at the events, he's at the pickleball courts. I mean, and that's great, and he can introduce you to other investors, and that's what I love about San Antonio. It is a very, very tight ecosystem.
And if I went to Google or to YouTube and I typed in, San Antonio investors or San Antonio investing, is Alamo Angels going to come up?
I think they do. I think they have some content on YouTube. Everyone can always do better, but I think there is a good amount of content out there.
Yeah, I think it's easy to find Alamo Angels.
Yep.
If you're looking for investment, Alamo Angels is kind of I would say it's the top of the list when it comes to investments, because we're such a small ecosystem for investing. There's only 3 funds here plus Alamo Angels.
And we are the largest network in Texas in general. We have the largest membership of any group in Texas, so we're definitely easy to find. I think that last thing I'll say about what we were just talking about is, when companies like that, 55, 50 million, whatever dollar companies, that compounds a lot, right? The guys that start companies just because of that, not even in tech, just whatever entrepreneurial idea they've been thinking about, they see something like that and they're like, I can really do that in San Antonio, or the guys who are working at his company, they now have the opportunity to go out and build other companies. So it really compounds quickly if we invest the time and effort into it.
Absolutely. Now, what are some of the myths that you guys have come across from entrepreneurs who are scared to get in front of investors because they've heard these stigmatisms before? What are some of those myths that you've heard?
I mean, you've done it.
I mean, I think it's rejection. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's I mean, remember when I was raising capital during the pandemic? I mean, I talked to 150 investors. This is, Alamo Angels is a great network because of you may not get a check, right? You're not always going to get a check out of every investment, but most of the companies you go pitch to, those 150, those relationships kind of fizzled out after the call ended, right? The Zoom call at the time ended. But in Alamo Angels, you get a group of investors, you get a group of people that want to see you succeed, because you're not going to get along with everybody, or everybody's not going to be interested in it. There may be somebody, and they'll lead you to another investor. And so, but rejection is like the starting point, right? And so rejection, but if you tie into that whole relationship that is Alamo Angels, you're able to kind of take that rejection and be like, okay, well, I couldn't get anybody to invest on pitch day, but I'd like to take this person out to lunch because they're interested in med tech, right? And that med tech could turn into a later investment. And but rejection is it. I would say, that's the reason people don't raise capital is if they've got a good product is because of rejection, and they just give up.
That's that tenacity. It's a character test, really. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the youth here in San Antonio when it comes to investing as well. Are you guys like involving, high schoolers or, college, or what are you guys doing in that realm?
College, the venture
Trinity.
fellow is what they're. The venture fellow. I think they've actually expanded to UTSA now. I've seen a couple UTSA students in there, but it's the Alamo Venture Fellows. I might have butchered that a little bit. Sorry, Sebastian, but Alamo Venture Fellows organization. They bring in Trinity students, I know, some Incarnate Word, and then UTSA as well. Bring in some of those students to kind of intern, but also help organize the pitch events and the visuals and the social media, all that kind of stuff. So
How active is that? Is it
seems
there a
pretty
lot of-
active. There's probably 5 or 6 of them every semester, I think, something like that. So.
Yeah, and we don't do just the pitch events. I mean, when he was talking about some of those events we do, they do venture brunches. We do coffee with angels.
On
Is that
Thursdays,
yeah, coffee with angels on Thursday. They're really involved with that. So I mean, it's not just a pitch event. Is lots of events, lots of networking events, lots of events to talk about.
Yep.
You know, whatever investments going on, or set up your next pickleball match, right? I mean, there's a lot outside of that, and the venture fellows tend to be super involved with it. And I think that goes great because angel investing is not just about the investment; it's about the networking that could lead to an investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody understands that more than me. I think I love networking San Antonio.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
You would have
Certainly
never
you
known.
just-
Way, really?
You would have never known.
One of the cool pushes that we've done in the group recently that Sebastian and a couple of our members have started to push a lot is our Women in Investing initiative. They've probably done 3 or 4 events now where it's a Women in Investing event. They had one at the SA Museum of Art here recently, and it's just featuring women founders, women investors, that kind of thing, to really get that percentage of the group up, which it really has, honestly. I've seen a lot more women investors and women founders in the group recently, so it's been cool to see that.
Yeah, I'm very interested in learning more about that. I know a lot of women that be wanting to invest in more than just shoes and
Absolutely.
their own business. They want to invest in others. And coming across a lot of them in networking, they're always looking for opportunities.
Yeah, they are.
So,
And I don't
yeah.
remember the statistic, but I'm going to butcher it, but 80% of financial
Yeah.
decisions are made by the wife or the woman
Well,
in the
that's
household.
truth in my house.
So
very
Exactly.
It's
true.
higher than that.
And it's become more and more on the investing side, too.
That's cool. Look, financial education is a huge deal, right? And everything we're doing in business, you guys are forward thinkers. You guys think outside the box. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Yeah. So we need to teach our teens how to do that too, right? In elementary school, right? They all like this idea of Shark Tank. That's a really good thing to kind of build on top of, right?
Yep.
Not that you're looking to duplicate it, but be your own thing. But there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there, and there's a huge miss going on when it comes to financial intelligence and then entrepreneur intelligence as well.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a thing, but I just coined it.
Yeah, there you
Well,
go. Yeah.
I like to use the term financial literacy,
Yeah.
which is they're pushing that in Florida a lot in the school system. They've mandated some different financial education classes at the primary and middle and high school levels. So I thought that's a really cool thing. So I hope more states follow that.
Well, I think if kids understand that the path to, having a successful, financial life doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to college, you have to get a job, you have to
Maybe
right?
get a job.
Yeah. Well, you can create a job.
Unless you invest.
Absolutely.
We invest in an early stage startup, and then you don't need to do anything.
Hard to invest if there's
Yeah.
no money to invest.
Right.
You
Might
borrow
need
it from
to-
your
You got to
parents.
start somewhere.
Yeah, but absolutely. I think that's the path to wealth is not the things you see on TV and social media.
It's not linear.
It's not linear at
No,
all.
it's
No, we all know
small
that.
incremental growth, right? Just like anything else. And kids aren't taught that anymore, unfortunately.
Well, I love what you guys
True.
are doing. I would say, keep at it. Just make sure you guys are making a bigger splash. It's all about getting the word out there if people understand what it is you guys are doing, so that they can get excited about it and get involved. Because that person, there's people just right around the corner that don't even know you guys exist yet that could be a huge benefit to what you guys are doing. So,
Agreed.
Luckily, I've seen us more and more in KSAT and in the SA Business Journal. They're featuring us a lot more. So hopefully that brings us some traction and some word in the community.
Yep, top of mind. It's a fun game. All right, if folks want to get reach out to Alamo Investors or Alamo Angels, how should they do that?
Definitely Sebastian. The website's a good spot. It's very easy to kind of get in contact with us, social media, all the above.
What's the website?
Yeah.
Is it alamoangels.org or what?
AlamoAngels.org.
Yeah, I think you got that one. I don't have that one.
It'll be on the link
It's on
on
my
this
notes.
Just
show.
Google it, will you?
Yeah, but
I'm doing it.
the events you can attend the events too. You don't have to be a member to attend the events. You
Oh,
can
okay.
you can sign up to attend one of the events or reach out to somebody. The events are really good introduction to it as a starting point. So
And where do they find the events?
Social media. Also getting in touch with a member. So even us, if y'all want to reach out to us, we are always pushing to bring guests. So going with a current member is a good way to do it. It is alamoangels.com. Very, very easy. So yeah, definitely come to the pitch events. They're really, really cool. Everybody loves going to those.
Love it. Well, thanks for braving the rain and coming in today, guys. I appreciate it. All right, as we wrap up the show, a quick reminder, check out our latest podcast and catch a video version of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. Great conversation about investing. If you want to be a shark, I guess reach out to alamoangels.com. See what you can do. All right, that's going to be it for us. You guys have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.